Right, hello everyone. Sorry for the delay, we've just had some technical difficulties um, with the stream at the minute, but thank you for joining. Um, this is the second edition of the NUGEN live stream. If you missed the first one last month, then the format is basically a chat about what's happening here at NUGEN over the past few weeks and months. We'll have a little discussion and touch upon a few things in the wider audio world, and then we follow that by taking a deeper look at some of the blogs and videos that we've put live on our learning section on the NUGEN audio website. And it's worth mentioning, if you're tuning into the stream, we'll be running a special competition that I'll talk a bit more about at the end, which is in line with our upcoming Focus Elements campaign. We're going to be giving away 5 free licenses for our monofilter Elements product, which will be released next month. So you can have early access to that through this competition. So listen out for the question at the end of the stream, and I'll go into a bit more detail later on about that. So firstly, let's talk about some of the things that have been happening in NUGEN. So we've been pretty busy here at NUGEN Audio recently. A couple of things. So the last time in the first stream, we talked about our Stereoizer Elements release that we did in April around Easter time. That was the thing we talked about last time, and then going on from that, the next thing that we did in the last few weeks, as part of what we called our immersive audio campaign that some of you may have seen on our website and on various forums and things like that across the web. We've recently done a little update for our Halo Upmix plugin, which some of you will be aware of is our stereo to surround audio plugin. This is basically just a little update that we've done, where we've introduced a new preset browser. So if you can see on the screen now, all being well, we've got Halo Upmix here open, which is just currently in 5.1. And just a little tweak we've done with Halo Upmix this time. As you can see, this is the new preset browser. So some of you may be familiar with this already. We have already introduced this for other plugins, and we will be introducing this for all of our plugins over the next few months. It's just a little change where you now can divide up the folders, and you also have a option to select your favorite presets just by clicking on the heart there. So if I just select a couple, I've already selected a few before, and as you can see on the left hand side of the window, we have a favorite list there, and it basically just adds any of the user added favorites into a folder. So just a little little things like that to help you kind of grab your reference points a bit more easily, and just make some little tweaks to speed up your workflow. So if you've got a particular preset or setting that you like using in Halo Upmix, then hopefully it should be a bit easier for you to access that with the new preset browser. This is already in a few of our other plugins as well, as I've just mentioned. And as well, we'll be rolling this out for all of our software over the next few months. So that's the Halo Upmix update that we released last month, and that's just a little thing that we've been the development team have been working on here at NUGEN Audio. So we've got some things coming up over the next few months that will be worth keeping your eyes peeled on. I'll be touching upon them in future streams. We've got some exciting things looking into the autumn and around September, October time that some of you may be aware of already. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled on that. We'll be touching upon those things in the next streams over the next few months. So as the format develops, we'll be able to talk about these things a little bit more. And now we're just going to have a look at some things that have been happening in the wider audio world. So, as I've mentioned before, we want to touch upon some of the interesting things that have happened, outside of NUGEN, things that, some technology things, some interesting developments in the technological side of music and post-production, as well as maybe some of the trivial things that are of interest to some of you who are interested in all things audio production. So, if we look here, the first bit of news I thought I'd touch upon, which I found quite interesting myself, is that as a country, Italy have unveiled their first Dolby Atmos studio, which is at Pino Pescatola's Pinaxa studio in Milan. So this is just another thing. If you'd missed the first stream, we were touching upon how Dolby Atmos is being introduced to streaming services, and how it seems to be taking a bit more of a prominent role in certainly the music production world. In post-production, it's already sort of been there for a few years now, and now it seems to be becoming the new trend in music production and music audio engineering. So as I say, like Italy have just got their first Dolby Atmos treated studio, and a quote that I've kind of pulled from here that Piscatola's mentioned is, he knew Atmos would be a game changer from the get-go when it became obvious that the format was scalable, which is an interesting point. With major streaming services like Amazon Prime Video and Apple Music announcing support, he says that it won't be long before it's the new standard for audio everywhere. And again, as I've said before, this seems to be another indication of where the music production world in particular is heading. It's becoming more prominent as a sort of format. As we've mentioned before, a number of devices and services have already announced they're starting to support Dolby Atmos. So things like headphones and AirPods and stereo speaker systems are starting to support Dolby Atmos via binaural mixdowns, as well as that, as we've mentioned, or as Pisatol has mentioned, Amazon Prime Video and Apple Music have announced compatible support. And a few musical releases we mentioned in our last stream, I think from a few major artists. Kraftwerk's 3D The Catalogue was released in Dolby Atmos. Hans Zimmer's Live in Prague, another release in Dolby Atmos. And then on like kind of the other side of the spectrum, you've got Public Enemy's Don't Believe the Hype, which was also got given an Atmos release as well. So there's definitely movement towards Dolby Atmos in the music production world. This is just something else that kind of cements that. And I thought it was worth touching upon. It was quite a bit of interesting news that I came across this week. Elsewhere, in some slightly more sort of trivial news, but I thought from a sort of a music and audio production world, it'd be quite interesting to see. So Mark Ronson is releasing a music production and technology show on Apple TV, where he kind of looks at the relationship between music production, creativity, and the technology that's basically available to you to create music. So something that is up and coming that I thought would be worth touching upon. And it's said to explore music's intersection with artistry and technology. So it explains how specific technology such as synthesizers, drum machines, so you can imagine the likes of like Roland 808, maybe like a Yamaha DX7, Mini Moogs, all them kind of like sort of iconic synthesizers and drum machines that were sort of coming around late 70s, early 80s. You'd imagine they're going to get mentioned, but it'd also be interesting to see how different techniques have evolved through time, and maybe some of the more modern synthesizers, maybe the introduction of VST instruments might get spoken about as you look at production, maybe post-millennium and things like that. So that must be, that to me is an interesting show to keep an eye out for. I'll certainly be trying to watch this. And I just thought it would be an interesting show to sort of raise awareness of something. As a show, if it's something that's like looking at the forefront of technology and how it relates to music as a brand here at NUGEN, that's something we're always sort of trying to be a little bit ahead of the curve, looking at what's happening in both music and post-production, and sort of trying to be ahead of the curve, sort of anticipate what's going to happen in the future and develop genuinely useful tools for our customers and users as those technologies become more prominent. So things like Dolby Atmos is a good example of something that's coming in more recent times. So yeah, that was just our little look at the wider audio world news roundup. Those are a couple of things I've picked out. Nothing too major, but I just thought they were really interesting points to sort of keep an eye on, see how it develops, especially with the Dolby Atmos stuff. And now this is going to be our sort of deeper look kind of section that we like to call it. If you've watched the last stream that we did last month in June, we covered a section basically on our mastering for the internet blog, which you can find on our learning section on the website. Also, if you want to have a look at the discussion we had last time on the part 1 of the series, then please feel free to check out the first stream that we did. It's still on our YouTube channel. It's still live. So feel free to have a look at that. The first part we spoke about was basically touching upon things like the loudness wars that kind of happened in the noughties, and how that kind of sort of faded away to the introduction of streaming services. And basically, so this is the blog we've got here. So as you can see, this section is basically touching a little bit more on those streaming services themselves. It takes more of a focus on them, sort of how streaming services and loudness normalization have kind of taken over from the quote unquote loudness wars that we had roughly 10-15 years ago, and how it's sort of, because of loudness normalization and sort of that kind of technology taking over, the race to kind of get the biggest, best, loudest sounding record seems to have gone, because I don't think it's just not as possible anymore with the formats and the sort of platforms that people digest music on. It's sort of a bit of the whole game, or the roadmap's changed now. So with like loudness normalization, as I mentioned before, it was essentially like bought in. It's essentially a decibel offset applied to an entire song, and it was kind of bought in to combat varying perceived loudness levels in different songs. Switching from album to album, tracks would have varying perceived loudness levels. So when you're listening through streaming services, so it's quite often that people will jump from song to song, and it's basically to make sure, or try to ensure as best as possible, that the songs are all being played out at the same level through whatever device you're listening to. I think what would be interesting to look at here is, as we've got a sort of little chart that we've got on here that gives you a little rundown of some of the major streaming platforms, their loudness target that they've set themselves. So as you can see, through Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music and Tidal, they're all sort of roughly in the same ballpark loudness-wise. Tidal, YouTube and Spotify all using a -14 LUFS target. They're using a couple of different codecs. So Spotify using OGG Vorbis. The name basically comes from OGG means the containers that contain the stream information, and Vorbis handles the audio data, producing the audio coding format. And it's all based around lossy audio compression. Again, AAC, you may be familiar with already if that's been around for quite a while now. Again, that's basically stands for Advanced Audio Coding. And it's another audio coding standard for lossy audio compression. And this was originally set out as a replacement for MP3, as it was able to achieve a higher sound quality. So it's interesting to see how these streaming platforms, they've kind of all set their own standards. There's no set rule with streaming platforms. It's different than for things like Netflix or Amazon Video, or for TV standards, for example, where you have to meet those requirements. In music, there is no set rule book, but your audio, it's said that your audio will sound the best if you or achieve the best sound if you're as close to these loudness targets as possible. And again, we've touched upon this before in the last stream, that we do have the plugin Master Check that has been available for some time now. So if I just go on, so let me just get rid of that track a second. I've touched upon Master Check before, but I'll just quickly have a look at it again. If it'll just load 1 second. So as you say, there's the Master Check layout. Pardon me, get rid of that. Yeah, this can assist you in mixing and mastering, and also getting your mixes as close to these sort of streaming platforms as possible. And also you can sort of anticipate codec distortion, which sometimes gets brought in through a mix down, and this gives you the opportunity to hear this pre-mix down. So things such as mixing down to MP3 or AAC can bring in codec distortion. If you want to see a little bit of a demo on how this is, how this works, please check out the first stream we touched upon Master Check and how it can help you for mixing for streaming services in that stream. So the one I want to touch upon in this stream, as you can see here, is VisLM. If I just drag it up to the screen. So another way to analyze the loudness measurements in your mix or master track is using VisLM. As you can see on the display, so VisLM will show you the integrated loudness, the short-term loudness, and the LRA or loudness range. You can also you can meter and measure your true peak as well. So let me just change that to, there we go. So it's particularly useful, I think, in longer projects or master projects. Maybe you've got your full album on a master project. And as I'll demonstrate in a second, VisLM has what's called the history view, where the plugin will remember the audio that's being played through it, and it basically builds up and draws a line graph, and it will remember all the integrated values in real time. So if I just play a bit of this track now, and I'll just show you kind of how VisLM looks when audio is being played through it. Okay, so as you can see, VisLM is sort of drawing the line graph as the audio goes through. Something that's worth mentioning about the history view. So if I was to delete a piece of audio that we've just played in VisLM, it will automatically recognize the difference. But the thing is, you won't have to edit any other sections of the audio that you've already previously played through VisLM, which kind of, if you're working on a master track for an album, this will massively speed up your workflow. So if I just play it through, so as you can see there, VisLM's recognised that I've taken out some of the audio, but it hasn't affected any of the previous readings or measurements that the plugin has taken. So it replots any changes made, which is a very, very useful tool for timekeeping and just general housekeeping of a project. I think another thing to mention, if I just turn up the audio in a second, what VisLM works really well as is what we call the flags in VisLM. So you can automatically check across your piece of audio where the audio has peaked. These can be set automatically. You can also add in your own flags. They can be used as sort of reference points in the audio. For, you may want to check out a particular sound or a particular drum hit that may have happened at a certain section, and the flag is just essentially a way of making a mark of that. It works the same way as markers do in a project such as Pro Tools or Logic. So if I was to turn the audio up now, you can sort of see how the flags are displayed. So as you can see there, they tend to have a correlation between the drum hits, in all fairness. Every peak of the audio is set with a red line across the graph, and you can use this function down the bottom to switch between flags. It'll basically, if it will eventually, it'll jump between flags so you can quickly reference them. You can quickly find where they are in your audio track. Also, as well, it's worth mentioning that you can set your own flags. So if I play the audio again, let's just turn that down a little sec. I'll make it a bit more obvious for you now. So if I play, so if you can see there what I've just done, you can press the flag button at the bottom, and this is a way of setting your own flags. So this doesn't need to be set by the audio peaking. This can just be set by the user for any necessarily needs that they have to do. And these will show up in an orange or a yellow colour, whereas the ones that have exceeded the max true peak will show up in red. So this is particularly useful, like as I've said, you've got long projects I can sort of give you another demonstration of how this kind of runs through the audio. So if I play some more, hold on, let me just quickly sort this out. I'll restart the plugin to get it back on a clean display. So yeah, I'll play the track from the start for a few seconds, and you can just have another look and see how VisLM measures and displays all the information of the audio. And there's your true peaks as well. Before I quickly close down this project, another thing as well, you can set your own boundaries for the graph to suit whatever necessary needs you have, depending on what you're mixing for. So these can all be set in the options panel. So as you can see, as I move the value up and down, the graph reflects that. And likewise. So you can set your splits and your boundaries on the graph to suit your needs. And yeah, hopefully that gives you some brief idea, I guess, of sort of how VisLM can work on a music track. It is initially a post-production plugin, but it definitely sort of has some cross-genre functionality, I guess is a good way of putting it. So yeah, that was our sort of deeper look. We had a quick talk about the sort of streaming services and the loudness normalization that's been introduced in recent years, and then we had a quick look at VisLM to see how it could be used to assist with that as well. If you want to find any of these plugins, they're available for a 15-day trial on our website. Pardon me. So yeah, feel free to have a go at those if you want to try it out for yourself. Maybe you want to try it on your own tracks. I'd definitely be worth doing that to get a taste of what the plugin's all about, and they're quite versatile, both MasterCheck and VisLM. So finally, the last thing before the stream ends, I wanted to talk about this. We've got a competition that we're running as part of our Focus Elements campaign, which doesn't start till next week. So this competition, for any of the people watching the stream, will be an exclusive to you. And I'm back. I'm back. Just as I was getting to the important bit. So basically, we are running an exclusive competition for you guys. As I've mentioned before, we're giving away 5 monofilter elements licenses. Now, I'm going to ask a question out to the people, you guys watching this. And basically, all I want you to do, if you want to enter this competition, all you have to do is email in your answer to the competitions@nugenaudio.com. You should be able to see that on the bottom of your screen right now. So I'll leave that up for this next few minutes. So yeah, all you have to do is email in your answer at competitions@nugenaudio.com, and the first 5 people to come in with the correct answer will be receiving a free monofilter elements license, which will be sent out tomorrow to your email, and you'll be able to use that as soon as you've received that email, and you'll be able to download it and basically get cracking with it. So the question that I would like to ask the audience is, it's a fairly easy one, and all you have to do is answer this following.